Quiz number 2. Oh, who's Mr. Duke's favorite student? No, Rachel, it's not you, sadly. It's good old Anne. Solve as indicated. Marks will be given for partial solutions, so show your work. After I did this quiz, I thought I should have left you more room because you kind of have to write small, but maybe not. Wants me to find the acceleration, so I said, okay, A equals question mark. Have I written something down? I feel better. I'm more relaxed. Then I went through here. I saw the phrase at rest, and I said, okay, clearly VI. You know what? I'm going to write that up here so I have extra room. I wrote VI equals 0. 18 meters, I said D equals 18. And then I think T equals 4. And I liked my units. Donald, as I was going through, I saw meters and seconds. If there was kilometers or hours or whatever, I would have crossed those out and just fixed them right away on the fly. I'm looking for an equation that has a D of VI. It's D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Or is it? No, actually, I think I can go straight to D equals AT squared over 2. What happened to the VIT? It's 0, so why waste my time? VI is 0, so 0 times T would be 0. And also, that's a way nicer equation to deal with, because now, how would I get the A by itself? What's the T squared doing to the A? So, I think I'll divide it over. What's that 2 on the bottom doing to the A? Dividing. I think I'll multiply it over. Will I need to square root this one? No, I'm not getting rid of the squared because I'm not getting the T by itself. I'm getting the A by itself. So I think the D would drop down like a domino. There would be a 2 there and a T squared there. That equals A. Or if you treated the 1/2 as a 0.5, I think you'd have D over 0.5 T squared, because dividing by a half is the same as multiplying by 2. I was helping somebody with their completing the square parabola homework in their math course, and they suddenly, oh yeah, that works still. I was like, yeah, I think it was Mason. I can't remember now. Yeah, cool. So it's going to be 2 times 18 divided by 4 squared. I might be able to do this in my head. It's going to be 36 over 16 divided by 4 divided by 4. It's going to be 9 over 4. Is it 8.25? No, 2.25? Units. Meters per second squared. So how would I give you part marks? I would give you a half mark if you wrote down the original equation, a half mark for the rewrite. If you did the whole first 2 steps in your head and went straight to this line, I would give you 1 mark for that. And my little math nerd heart would go pitter-pat because I would say, okay, you're getting the hang of this ability to rewrite equations. Half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Wrong or missing units, I would take a half mark off. B, they want me to find VF. I'm not going to relist everything. I could use A if I wanted to. Don't write this down. I could go VF equals VI plus AT. The only risk is that I'm using an answer to find an answer, and I'll often try and avoid that on a test or a quiz. So I think I'm going to end up using D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. Although, what's VI? Which makes the equation a little nicer. Because I think then the bracket becomes kind of unnecessary since there's only one thing in the brackets. In fact, it looks an awful lot kind of like this equation. I think I'm going to times by 2, not divide by T squared, but I'm going to divide by T. I think another equation for V final is 2 times D over T. So it's going to be 2 times 18 over 4. I think I can do that in my head. It's going to be 36 divided by 4. 9? Even? Yeah. I'll even go to 2 sig figs to look more impressive. 9.0 and meters per second. I don't know why I put a squared there. I even said meters per second and wrote squared. That was silly of me. Same as before, so half mark for that, half mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Looks like in number 2, they're asking me to find the acceleration. Okay. I think that 1.5 is VI. I think that 8.6 is VF. I think T equals 4.5. I'm going to be brave and get the A by itself. I think you're going to write A equals VF minus VI over T. Is that correct? I would give you 1 mark for that. If you wrote VF equals VI plus AT, 0.5, but if you went straight to here, 1 mark. And so it's going to be 8.6 minus 1.5 all over 4.5. Can I do that one in my head? It's going to be 7.1 divided. No, that one's yuckier. Oh. Bracket 8.6 minus 1.5. Brackets around the top because there's more than one thing on the top. It is a fraction. Divided by 4.5. Divided by 45, Mr. Dewick. Let's try that again. Divided by 4.5. Did you get 1.57 and then the 7 repeats? You'll notice my calculator rounds off near the end. Some of you have the newer calculators that actually show the repeating symbol, and good for you. Mine rounds off on the 9th or 10th sig fig, but I've learned to clue in. I think the pattern keeps going. I'm going to write 1.58 meters per second squared. If you wrote 1.57, I would take a half mark off. If you wrote 1.57 repeating, I'll live with that, but we generally do give our answers to 3 sig figs in physics. Again, now 1 mark for that, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Distance traveled. Again, I'm going to use D equals bracket VI plus VF times T all over 2. It's going to be bracket 1.5 plus 8.6 times 4.5 all over 2. This is nice. The D was already by itself. So bracket 1.5 plus 8 points. Ooh, wait a minute. I have to put a big uber bracket because there is more than one thing on the top. So I'll do that. And then I'll go bracket 1.5 plus 8.6. Close off the small bracket times 4.5. Close off the next bracket divided by 2. 22.725, 22.7? If I go to 3 sig figs? People nodding? Units, meters. By the way, little tricks of the trade. You remember for 1B, I said I could also use VF equals VI plus AT. If this was a test before I handed it in, I might go to 1B and I might try going 2.25 times 4. And if I also get 9, hey, I probably got the acceleration right. And I could probably do something similar for part B. I could probably use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared and also see if I get the same D answer. And ideally, I would. How far? D. What's that 24? I think VI. What's VF, Braden?
0.
How do you know? How do you know from the question? Stopping. Stopping. That's how you know. That was our secret. We didn't need to go. I thought you were going to show. I was giving you a chance. Okay. 0. And then the other thing, why is A not 3.8? I'm slowing down. I'm still deciding whether or not I'll do one of those on the test. I might be nice because I'm having to cram things. On your test, I might say A at negative 3.8 meters per second squared, and you wouldn't have to insert the negative. I would have done it for you. But hopefully you would have noticed I got a negative displacement, and I think I was going forwards. Something's wonky here. I think I'm going to use D equals, is it VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A? I know VF is 0. The only time I don't cancel out zeros is if it's the only thing on one side of the equal sign. So the original equation is VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. If I go like that, Can you see now I got nothing over there and it's a bit ugly and awkward, and I see kids get a little confused. So if there's a 0 and it's the only thing on that side, I tend to leave it there for one line and then I'll insert it. Tricks of the trade. So it's going to be 0 squared minus 24 squared all over 2 times negative 3.8. No idea what the answer is here. Definitely brackets around the top and brackets around the bottom. Oh. Do y'all get 75.8? Not 7. And that's meters. Same marking scheme, half mark for the VF squared equation, half mark for getting the D by itself, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answers. Are you starting to notice that even if you can just find the correct equation and write that down, that's marks. So don't leave stuff blank at all if you can help it. I give up part marks like candy. In fact, probably more than candy, because I always forget to give out the candy, even though I say I'm going to give out the candy. Alicia, what's B asking me to find? Yeah, and I'm glad you said distance, because how long can mean both, but the fact that I found distance in A, technically displacement, I don't think they're going to ask me to find it. I think this how long is time. I'm not going to relist everything. I think I'm going to use T equals VF minus VI over A. I could use I could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared, I guess, and use my distance answer. I could use my answer from A, but I'll avoid it because this equation is cleaner anyways. It's going to be 0 minus 24 all over negative 3.8. Remember, time is the one value that will always be positive. If you get a negative time, you have made a mistake somewhere. Doesn't mean you're traveling backwards in time. I saw a movie once where they went backwards. No, time doesn't go negative, okay? Well, we will talk about time travel after Christmas, near the end of the course. But even then, when we allow for time travel, traveling backwards in time, probably impossible. There is a theory that says if we could tow a wormhole near a black hole, we might be able to travel backwards through time. But we suspect that if we develop that technology, by then we'll have learned more laws about the universe, and we'll find the universe prevents us from doing that. Hashtag nerd trivia. 6.32. 6.32. If you said 6.31, I would take a half off. Units, seconds. Turn the page, I guess. Find the acceleration, it says. Okay. By the way, when I say speeds up uniformly, that's me just saying, look, we're going to assume this acceleration is constant because we can't handle a changing acceleration. When you step on the gas in a car, is the acceleration constant? I don't think so. There's always a bit of a delay, and then there's and you kind of max out your acceleration, and then it starts to decrease again. So we're ignoring all that because we don't have the physics skills to handle it. So whenever I add that phrase, that's me being a physics nerd, Ethan, and just saying, look, I get it. In real life, I don't think this car accelerates at a constant rate, unless you have an electric car. Very different. I think VI is 12, T is 6, D is 96. I think we're going to use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. And you'll notice I wrote this one out because I already tried to do it in my head, and I said, this one's tougher, Shay. I better write out the original equation first, just to get a feel for how it's put together. What am I trying to get by itself? The A. So the D is going to drop down like a domino. I think I'm going to minus VIT and divide by 0.5, not A, 0.5 T squared. Is that correct, folks? I think. Not going to memorize it. I could, but why waste my brain? It's going to be 96 minus 12 times 6 divided by 0.5 times 6 squared. I might be able to do this in my head. It's going to be 96 take away 72. 96 take away 70 is 26 take away 2 is 24. On the 24, it's 48. 48 over 36. Yeah, I can do that in my head. It's going to be divided by 12. 4 over 3. Is it 1.3 repeating? Yep. I went 96 take away 72. No, I didn't. I went 96 take away 70. Take away 2. So I ended up with this. I know that dividing by 0.5 is the same as timesing by 2. So I, in my head, changed it to that. And I know 12 goes into both of those evenly. It's 4 over 3. And that I know is 1.333. So it wasn't that impressive. It was just a nice set of numbers. When you hear me say, I think I do this in my head, what I'm really saying is, I think a bunch of stuff will cancel on the top and bottom, and I can reduce this to something small enough that I can track. So there, peeled back the curtain. There's no wizard back there. Units, meters per second squared. Find the velocity after 6 seconds. So definitely wants me to find VF. Boy, I'd love to use VF equals VI plus AT. Because that's so much shorter and it gets... No, let's use the answers they gave me. I think I'm going to use D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. If I get the VF by itself, I think it's going to be 2 times D divided by T minus VI. That equals VF, because the VF is inside the brackets, so I deal with the brackets last, times the 2 over, divide the T over. Now I've got rid of the brackets, minus the VI. And notice the VI is not being divided by the T. It's going to, you know what? I might be able to do this in my head. 2 times 96 divided by 6. Oh, not equals. Minus 12. Maybe I can. It's going to be 96 divided by 3, which is going to be 32. Is it 20 even? Yeah. Yes. Yep. Did you go VF equals VI plus AT and use your answer from part A? So you used your answer from part A? Although I would have then gone VI equals VF plus... Oh, no, I guess no, they didn't. Anyways, yeah. Yep. As long as you get the same thing as me, I don't care how you do it. And honestly, in my homework, I would have picked the laziest method, not the best test writing method. So I'll often use an answer to find an answer in my homework if it's quicker, because the homework is where you're becoming an expert. I'll often do more in my head in my homework. I would have probably, for example, in my homework, tried to get the A by itself without rewriting this first one, just to see if I could. And if I got it wrong, because I almost always give you the answers, I would know, and then I would just write it out show more work. They want me to find a D. Well, definitely A is 3.75 because it's meters per second squared. What's that 84? VI? That's VF. Problem, that's only 2 things. I need 3 things to find the 4th. Oh, what did we agree for airplanes when they take off? I think VI is 0. I've never seen an airplane go squealing around the corner at full speed onto the runway, you know, do a little donut and keep going or whatever, right? Or you're all saying airplanes, what are those? Yeah, it's been a while since we've done a little traveling. I think it's going to be D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. 84 squared minus 0 squared all over 2 times 3.75. So this one, Caden, I don't see nice stuff that cancels. I don't try and do it in my head. Do you get 941? If you said 940.8, I'd give you full marks, but I just have the habit of going to 3 sig figs. Almost a kilometer. Why did I say minimum length, by the way? You'd probably triple that for redundancy, but you certainly wouldn't build it shorter. RCMP, how fast was the car moving when it started? You know what? This wants me to find VI. There's definitely a distance of 42.5. Looks like there's a time of 1.6. Oh, that's only two things. I need three things to find the fourth. Yeah? What's zero? Oh, in any car accident, I don't think there's a car accident that's still going on somewhere. So, okay. I would start with this. I think if I get the VI by itself, it's going to be 2 times D divided by T minus VF. Oh, wait a minute. VF is 0, so I didn't need to write that. But if you did, that's fine. So it's going to be 2 times 42.5 divided by 1.6. Is that right? So it's going to be 90 divided by, it's the same as 900 divided by 16, divided by 2, 450 divided by 8, divided by 2, 225 divided by 4, 122.5 divided by 2, oh boy. 60, is it 62.5? No, I'm off. $53, I need to go one more time. 53.125, 53.1? And again, 2 marks if you got that. Otherwise, half mark, half mark, half mark, half mark. Can you give yourself a lovely score, please, out of 20? How many 20 out of 20s? A few of you? Good. I know this seemed really weird a while ago, but we're getting this. Put your name on it, and you can hand the quizzes back in. I know I've been talking for a while. I think I'm going to try and finish this lesson, which finishes the unit, and then you can just work on the homework. Towards the end of class, I'll give you a take-home quiz. Tomorrow, I think we're going to be doing a mini lab, maybe 2, and I'll be giving you a study guide. Wednesday is going to be just mark the take-home quiz, maybe one more quiz, study guide, work through stuff, ask me questions. So we're in good shape, okay? Example 4, a ball is thrown straight up from a cliff at 12.5 meters per second. What if it had been straight down from the cliff? What would the 12.5, how would I have shown straight down? Negative, okay? And I might have been nice and said straight down at negative 12.5, or depending if I was trying to make the question a little tougher, I might have said straight down at 12.5 and expected you to clue in negative. Hits the ground at the base of the cliff after 8.25 seconds. Everybody got the lesson? I should have paused. Everybody found it okay? Okay. What's A asking me to find? Well, how high? Of our 5 physics ideas, acceleration, VI, VF, T, and D, what's it asking me to find? I think it's going to ask us to find, by the way, we're going to find a displacement. And you'll know that in just a second. So I'm going to go, but I'll even put the vector symbol there because you'll see why I'm saying our physics is going to give us a displacement in just a second. What's that 12.5? What are the units next to that 12.5? So it's a velocity. VF or VI? I think that's VI. We're starting out. Okay? By the way, here's what we're imagining. Don't write this down. There's the cliff. We're imagining we're standing right on the edge of the cliff with our toes sticking out into space, and our hand is actually out in midair. We're throwing it straight up, and it's coming straight back down. So it's not going to hit the cliff. Okay? So VI is 12.5. What's that 8.85? Yeah. That's only two things. I need three to find the fourth. V final will not be zero. V final, when you hit the ground, is not zero. And if you don't believe me, do a belly flop onto my floor. I assure you it will hurt. And the reason it will hurt is because when you're in free fall, impact velocity is not zero. Now, it's zero after you hit the ground, but not when you hit the ground, I assure you. That's, by the way, you'll hear me say that over and over because that's a common misconception. Kids will think, well, isn't it zero when you hit the ground? No. If it was, it wouldn't hurt. What else do I know? Don't I know what? I know the acceleration. We're in free fall. Even on the way up, we're in free fall. By the way, on the way up, is the rock speeding up or slowing down on the way up? Negative acceleration, gravity's slowing it down. It's in free fall at negative 9.8 meters per second squared. At the top for a split second, it's zero, and then it starts coming back down. Now its velocity and the acceleration are in the same direction. It's got a negative velocity and a negative acceleration. It's speeding up. Which equation? Which equation? Hannah R, which equation? Since I saw you flip your sheet over and go look, yeah. Is the D already by itself too? Oh, bonus, I like that. And again, I'll just remind you, Hannah, we should pay attention to the direction, In other words, careful with your negatives and positives. Don't say A is 9.8. Okay? So it's going to be positive 12.5 times 8.85 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 8.85 squared. Try this on your calculator and you're going to get something a little odd. Do you get negative 273 point that there? Why negative? That's not an error this time. This doesn't make me nervous. Remember the picture that I drew? We're standing right here. Okay. Are we ending up above or below from where we started? How would we indicate below in directions? Negative. It's a displacement. Okay, so it's telling you you ended up below from where you started from. So that's a confirmation that actually I probably did this right. What was it, negative 273? Point whatever, I'll go to 3 sig figs. Okay. B. What's the maximum height of the ball? Isn't that what we just found? Donald shook his head. What's this asking us to find? Oh, how high up above us it went before it came back down. Gotcha. So I'm going to argue this is still asking us to find a displacement, but this is going to be a different displacement. Oh, you know what I'll do just so I don't get these two letters mixed up? How about a subscripted H for height? And I think I've told you, we'll use subscripts as an easy way to be organized but lazy. Okay. Can I still use VI equals 12.5? I think so. We're still starting at 12.5. Was it 12.5? I've scrolled down. Was it 12.5? Yeah. Can I use T equals 8.85? I don't think so. I think 8.85 seconds got us to the bottom of the cliff, so I can't use that. Can I still use A equals negative 9.8? Yeah. Uh-oh. I only know two things. Or what? Yeah, Garrett. VI would not be the same as VF. VI would be the same as VF when we get back to to the level of our throw. But what? Oh, at the top for a split second, you're saying that VF for a split second is 0. I agree with that. Keep going, Garrett. Which equation? I'll give you a hint. D equals. Haha. That's not a hint, Mr. Dewick. I don't know T. Yep. VF squared equals VI squared plus. Get the D by itself. How would I get the D by itself? Talk to me. So I would do it. Yeah. Again, you can memorize, like if you really want to, Thursday afternoon, you can add that to your formula sheet, but I would encourage you, resist the temptation, and learn to rewrite these. It's so much better. 0 squared minus 12.5 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. By the way, Garrett, at the top, are we above or below from where we started? Am I expecting a positive displacement here or a negative displacement here? I'm positive. I hope I get a positive. Do you get 7.97? Yeah? Why is that wrong? Jordan looked at me. Wrong? It's an error? I never make mistakes. It's wrong. Can't be the right answer. Ooh. Jordan, can you do me a favor? Can you read to me part B? What is, from the word what is? This is not the maximum height of the ball. What have we found? Remember our imaginary cliff? Okay. We found that. Don't we want that? Does everybody see what we need to do now? And by the way, I would probably, as a hint, make this a 3-mark question, and that would be my hint that there's probably one extra step after your plug and chug. What do I have to do? If you want to know how high I am, now part of the problem is I keep saying height. Height, not displacement, is technically a scalar. We would never say a cliff is negative 273 meters high. We would say what? The cliff is 273 meters high. So if you want me to find the height, that's going to be 7.97 plus 273. That's how high we are above the ground, which is typically where we measure things from. Is it 280.97? So 200, I'm going to call it 281 meters. It is for a displacement, but if I start here and measure up, that's positive direction. I'm just changing my start point. I'm saying, normally when we talk about heights, we measure from the ground up. Good point, though. Is that all right? So yeah, for the purposes of a height, don't keep it as a displacement. Take the positive value, because from a height, we're always measuring from the ground, not from the top of the cliff. Is that all right? Edward, what does C want me to find? Not 0. Okay, sorry, I had to reinforce that. In fact, I think it's a VF. Yes? I don't know. I'm just going to say VF equals question. I think that's the impact velocity. Can I still use VI of 12.5? I think so. Can I use that time of 8.85 seconds again or not? Is it 8.5 seconds until it hits the ground? And is my impact velocity when I hit the ground? I think I can. Yeah. What else? Oh, A, Freefall, right? Negative 9.8. Sarah, I could have used the negative 273 probably, but I'll avoid using that unless I have to, because why use an answer to find an answer in case you get the first one wrong, you get the next one wrong. Hey, I'm looking for an equation that's got a VF, a VI, an A, and a T in it. There is one. In fact, I think the VF is already by itself quite conveniently. Caden, which one? It's going to be 12.5 plus negative 9.8 times 8.85. Ooh, what do you notice about your answer? VI is not 0. VI would be 0 if we dropped it from the cliff, but I don't think we dropped it from the cliff. We threw it up. And then watched it come zipping past our feet going down. Well, no, what do you notice about your answer? Negative. Which way is the ball or the rock traveling when it hits the ground? Does the negative scare me or relax me? I think I was expecting a negative. Okay. Not 0. Is it negative 74.2? Before we turn the page, what if instead of throwing the rock up at 12.5, what if I threw it down at 12.5? Would you expect it to hit the ground faster, slower, or the same speed as this 74.2? Okay, a little thought puzzle for us. If instead of throwing it up at 12.5, if I leaned forward and threw it down at 12.5, would it hit the ground faster, slower, or the same? I don't think, you know what? I don't think the same. What? Caden, what? I think it'd be hitting the ground faster. You know what? The easy way for me to find out, I can just backspace and make the 12.5 negative. And instead of hitting at 74.2, 99.2, negative, still going down, but the magnitude, 99.23. Yeah, hits the ground faster. And that makes sense to me. I think if I threw it down, it would hit the ground faster. So I often will just kind of play around with the numbers to see if I get answers that make sense. Rachel, from my experience of throwing things, probably lets me know I've done this right. Now you can next page over or turn the page or whatever we're doing. Example 5. When I say how high is the cliff, what am I really asking you to find? I think a displacement, distance, displacement. It's a cliff. I think we're going to get a negative answer because I'm pretty sure we're ending up below from where we started. What's VI? Logan. Can't be. Kai, loud and proud. What? How do you know negative? How do you know down? Because I underlined it and bold fonted it and you read the question carefully? Really? Negative 26.5. Otherwise, this is the same question we just did. So what I'm going to have you do is try solving the rest of this on your own. I'm not going to freeze my screen, but I'm not going to talk you through it. Work at your own pace, and let's see if we end up in the same location. And if I made a mistake, let me know, but I think I'm right. So you go. Sorry? So I ended up with negative 411 point something, 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 something. And then I leave the negative there, but if you ask me technically for the height, well, we would say it's positive 411 meters high, just because in English we don't describe heights with negatives. But whatever. B. How high is the ball after 2.5 seconds? We're going to skip B. We are going to do C, though. Edward, what is not the answer to part C? It's not 0. What's the impact velocity, which we'll call V final, because that's the bang hitting the ground velocity. So it wants us to find VF. I think I can use the other stuff, though. VI is negative 26.5, and T is 6.85, and A is negative 9.8. Which equation? VF equals VI plus AT? Yeah? Try that on your calculator. What do you get? I think you get a negative answer. Yes? Shay, what'd you get? Negative something. Negative 93.6. Anybody else? People nodding? Okay. Example 6. I think, is this our last one, or do I have one more? Nope. 2 more. Example 6 is tough. I like example 6. I like example 6. I like example 6. Example 6 is a nice question. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Example 6 is tough enough. It's multi-step. I think it's 3 steps. It's tough enough that on your test, it should be worth like 4 marks. I'm going to make it worth 1 mark because it's tough. I don't want it to hammer you, but I think it's fair game. It's just, you'll see what I mean. Okay. Read the question and then say to yourself, self, what's this question asking me to find? Sophia, what is this question asking me to find? Sorry? You say time? Yeah. All right. What's that 18? What's the 18? Yeah, it's meters per second. So VI or VF? VI. Are we in free fall? A is negative 9.8. What's that 82? It's a distance, and here's the problem. I need to use a displacement in my vector equations here. D is not 82. Are we ending up above or below from where we started? So First thing you need to catch is that there. Okay? It's negative 82. Is that all right, Xavier? That's not easy to spot. Okay? Hey, looking for an equation that's got a T, a VI, an A, and a D in it. There is one. Which one? Caden, loud and proud. If I plug, first of all, here's the problem. What do I want to get by itself? How many T's are there in this equation? Now, we did solve for T, I don't know if you recall, last day, but in that question, way back here, VI was 0, and so we only had AT squared over to half AT squared, only a single T. Braden, if you were in my math class, I would say to you, what kind of an equation is this? And my students would all say back, it's a quadratic. And I would say, how do you know? And they would say, it's got a squared and a non-squared term. And you can solve this with the quadratic formula. But none of them know that. So I have to do a workaround. So make a little note. In grade 12, you'll all know how to solve that. Or if you listen to me this year, you'll realize that your calculator even has a built-in solver. I'll show you how to use it in grade 12. We can't solve this yet. Okay? So this is tough. Tough number one, you need to catch, Allie, that the displacement needs to be made negative. Tough number two, the equation we'd like to use, we can't use. But wait a minute, folks, look up. How many things do I know? I can find a fourth. Don't find time. What else could I find? VF. So make a little note to yourself. Find VF instead. I'm looking for an equation that has a VF, a VI, an A, and a D in it. There is one. So VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. And then how to get rid of a squared? We're going to square root the entire right-hand side. So VF equals the square root of 18 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 82. Try that on your calculator. I usually do what's inside the square root first. And for a candy, who can tell me why 43.94542.069 is wrong? Because it is wrong. Who can tell me why that has to be wrong? Caden, what? Which way are we traveling when we hit the ground? Down. Here is where our software fools us. Your calculator or software always assumes when you hit the square root button that you want the positive answer. But you know what the square root of 9 is? It's 3 or negative 3. Because negative 3 times negative 3 is also positive 9. You know what the square root of 16 is? It's 4 or negative 4. You know what the square root of this is? It's 43.94 or negative 43.9454. So trick number 3 is I have to realize my calculator is lying to me. I have to overrule my calculator and say, no, this time I want the negative root. If you need to, you can write a little note. And I know it's negative because I'm imagining the situation when it hits the ground. I think when it hits the ground, Mason, it's got to be traveling down. I can't think of a situation where it hits the ground traveling up. It could hit the ceiling traveling up, but that's not what's happening here. Okay, so now I have VF, VI, and A. Find an equation that has those four things in it. A T, a VF, a VI, and an A. I'll let someone else go this time. You're doing good on this, though. Adam, which equation? Sorry, I think I caught you zoning. That's why I picked on you. By the way, if I sense you're zoning out or doing the yawn thing, I'm coming at you in love, but I got to wake you up somehow. And I know you get a little adrenaline rush when the teacher suddenly calls your name. So, Edward, I got an answer. Yeah. Am I wrong? Am I wrong, first of all? Yeah, same thing. Don't clear your calculator. Let me just pause the video for a second. Don't clear your calculator. Go ahead. Which one? Okay, so now I can use VF equals VI plus AT, except get the T by itself, Adam. Negative 43.9454. I'm going to use my answer button. I'm going to hit my negative and then my answer button. Minus, what was VI? 18? All over negative 9.8. So if I wanted to type this in and be lazy but organized, is this a fraction, Hannah? Is there more than one thing on the top? So I would go bracket negative answer button. That's negative 43.9454, blah, but actually gives me all the sig figs. Minus 18 divided by negative 9.8. And I get 6.32 seconds. That's the workaround when you're trying to find time and you can't get the T by itself. It's okay, Sarah, you've got three other things, so you can find a fourth, V final. The tricky part is, can you see all the room to make sloppy mistakes, missing the negative there, forgetting to add in the negative there. And unfortunately, often there's no hint that you've done it wrong. You can't look at your answer on your calculator and say, Sometimes you'll get an error if you don't put the negative in. You'll get a square root error sometimes, but not always. So T equals, what was it, 6.32 seconds? I like that question. I like that question. I like that question. How many steps was that? Let's see. You had to catch that. 1, 2, 3, and then, 4. But I'll make it worth 1 mark because it's too easy to lose a lot of marks on this. Last one. Thank you for your patience. You've been great. Read the question and then ask yourself, what's A asking me to find? And then underneath part A, write down what it's asking you to find equals question mark. Right? VI equals question mark, I think. And again, Claire, same idea. We're imagining we're standing on a cliff with our feet, our toes in midair, and we're throwing the object. Oh, can VI be negative? Yeah, I guess I could throw it down or throw it up. So if I get a negative here, that doesn't tell me, like I won't freak out. It also won't confirm something. It'll just be, oh, I guess I threw it down instead of up. So it could be. What's that 6? Oh, that's nice. Oh, what's A? We're in Freefall. What's D? Don't say 360 because it's not. Negative 360. Because we're standing on a cliff and ending up below from where we started from. Which equation? Caden, go ahead. Oh, you're getting the t by itself? So I think it's d equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Yeah? And, oh, get the VI by itself. Okay. What'd you say? 0.5 AT squared. Is that right? The d would drop down like a domino. I would subtract the 0.5 AT squared over. And then what's the t doing to the VI multiple? Yeah, I like that. I think that's right. Okay. Negative 360 minus 0.5, negative 9.86 squared all over 6. Yeah, I'm not doing that one in my head. Definitely brackets around the top. Don't need brackets around the bottom. No idea what the answer is. Ooh. You got a negative answer? Okay, so I guess we threw it downwards. Negative 30.6 is what I got. It's a fairly nice answer, actually. Not a long repeating yucky decimal. Okay. B, what's its impact velocity? Not 0. What's B asking me to find? Small problem. If I look for an equation that has a VF, I'm trying to get this all on one page here, shrink it down a tiny bit, Mr. Dewitt. If I look for an equation that has a VF, a T, an A, and a D, there is none. There is no equation. I'm going to have to, finally, I'm going to have to use my answer from part A to find my answer for B. And that's going to happen sometimes, Xavier, in the homework as well. You're going to have to use an answer to find an answer. So there is no equation that, there's no D equals VFT plus a half AT squared, because that's not an equation, doesn't work that way. So I think I'm going to go with VF equals VI plus AT. Why? Because I have to use my answer from A anyhow. Then I may as well use the easiest equation that has the VF by itself already and just save myself some time. If this was a test and you got part A wrong, but you dropped your VI right there and did part B correctly, even if you got the wrong answer, I would give you 2 out of 2 for part B because you've done it correctly. Or if this was a test and you got here and you said, I couldn't remember or figure out how to find VI, but Mr. Dewick, I know that's what I need. Write me a note, Mr. Dewick, I couldn't find VI. I'll assume VI is 12 meters per second. And if you then solved it with VI equals 12, but you did it correctly for your numbers, I would give you 2 out of 2. So if you ever come to a part 2 that you can't do because you couldn't get part A and you think you need your answer from A to do B, to do part B, make up a nice reasonable value. Don't let VI equal 1 trillion or something silly like that. Don't let VI equal 0. Make up a nice number. Show me you can do it, and I'll give you full credit for part B, Allie, always. Okay. Anyways, VF equals negative 30.6 plus negative 9.8 times, what was T6? I can use answer button, plus negative 9.8 times 6. And I get negative 89.4 meters per second. Okay. There you go. We need to practice this, but this is the end of the unit. I'm not going to be giving you any new topics. And in fact, you might recall I said to you when I started Freefall, my hope was I actually didn't teach you anything. I hope you didn't really learn anything new in terms of the equations. It was, oh, I didn't realize that displacement needs to be negative if you're on a cliff. Maybe that should have been some tidbits, Alicia, but hopefully there wasn't anything earth-shattering here or anything like that. What's your homework? Number 1. Skip 2, but you can do 3. Okay. Somebody pointed out last day, I can't remember who, but they were correct. So for number 3, if we're throwing something up from the ground, you can assume we're laying flat on our belly and throwing it from the ground. Because somebody said, well, wouldn't they have to add like your arm height? Yes. And I just didn't want to make that up for every question. So assume Billy Armstrong is on the ground and throwing it from the ground, laying on his stomach, okay? 4. 5 is good. 6 is good. Before you turn the page, number 6 is asking you to find how high. I think you'll get a negative answer on your calculator because height is technically a scalar. I just gave the positive version. I don't care if on a test you give me the displacement or the height. Either's fine. 7 is good. Skip 8. Boy, you can tell when I typed this up because Roberto Luongo makes an appearance, so that must have been a while ago. 9 is good. 10 is good. 10D. There's your part of the homework I haven't talked about yet. See if you can figure it out. Okay? Otherwise, I'll talk about it tomorrow afternoon. Or maybe later on in class today because we're done. Ball is tossed vertically upwards. Nah. But there's the baseball question where I did include the hand height. 12 is good. When A asks for, so we're throwing a ball vertically downwards from a cliff. When it asks for the maximum velocity, what is the maximum velocity? When does it occur? It's impact. So another way to say find the impact velocities. Find the fastest that it's traveling, probably right when it hits the ground. Okay. Skip 13. 14 is good. 15 is good. Skip 16. 17 is good. Skip 18. 19 is good. It's 12 after. Take a short break if you want. I'm not going to be doing anything dramatically new here. At about 11 a.m. though, I'm going to give you another take-home quiz, and that take-home quiz will be on Freefall. Okay? Tomorrow afternoon, we'll mark the take-home quiz, and we'll do a little mini lab. We will be calculating human reaction time. So we'll show you how you can use some of this stuff. And I will also be giving somebody a chance to maybe perhaps win a little cash. Maybe. Show you a good bar bet that you can bring to people and make some money.